My future stepdaughter destroyed my wedding dress. A week before the wedding, I am torn between giving her another chance and calling off the entire event. My name is Emma, and in exactly 1 week, I was supposed to step into a new chapter of my life, dressed in a gown that carried generations of love and dreams, just as my late grandmother had envisioned. The wedding had been everything Alan and I talked about for over a year, ever since he proposed on a chilly but heartwarming evening at our favorite little lakeside spot where we first realized we were in love. But tonight, as I sit amidst the ruins of my once pristine wedding dress, those dreams feel as shredded as the delicate fabric lying in tatters around me. Alan and I met at a time when the promise of new beginnings seemed like nothing more than a distant whisper on the horizon. I was emerging from the fog of a tumultuous relationship, and Alan, similarly, was piecing his life back together after his divorce from Carrie. Our worlds collided one crisp autumn evening at a mutual friend's art exhibition, where paintings of serene landscapes and turbulent seas mirrored our own internal landscapes. From our first conversation, it was clear that Alan was a man of depth and integrity. He shared his journey with candid vulnerability, his marriage to Carrie, their early years filled with love that slowly curdled into resentment and conflict. When he spoke of Rose, his daughter, his eyes lit up. She was his pride, his joy, his grounding force. Alan explained that Carrie had always been the more ambitious partner, her desires sprawling beyond the confines of their family life, which ultimately led her down a path that did not include him. His honesty about the complexities of co-parenting with someone he could no longer trust, yet who remained an integral part of his life because of Rose, painted a picture of a man who valued honesty and responsibility above all. Our relationship developed slowly, built on a foundation of deep mutual respect and shared experiences of past hurts. Alan was clear from the start. His daughter came first. I admired this about him. It was one of the things that drew me closer, despite knowing the challenges that lay ahead. Integrating into Alan and Rose's world was not without its trials. Rose was only 6 when her parents split, and her world was irrevocably changed. By the time I met her, she was a precocious 8-year-old with a sharp intellect and a guarded heart. Her initial wariness of me was palpable. It was clear that Carrie's influence, coupled with the insecurities bred from her parents' split, shaped her early interactions with me. Rose would often test boundaries, her remarks sometimes tinged with the sort of skepticism and rejection that only a child caught between 2 homes can manifest. "You're not my mom," became a refrain I heard too often, each utterance a small slice to my heart. Understanding the depth of her turmoil, Alan and I decided to seek family therapy. It was important to us that Rose felt supported, and that she understood her feelings were valid and heard. These sessions were a mix of breakthroughs and setbacks. We navigated through difficult conversations about loyalty, trust, and the changes that my presence brought into her life. Therapy provided us with the tools to communicate more effectively, and slowly, the barriers Rose had built began to crumble. Outside of therapy, I made every effort to connect with Rose on her terms. We found common ground in our love for the arts. I remember taking her to her first ballet, her eyes wide with wonder as the dancers leaped across the stage. It was one of the first times she held my hand voluntarily, a small gesture that felt like a significant victory in our growing relationship. We also shared a love for the outdoors. Alan, Rose and I would often go on hikes. During these excursions, Rose seemed to relax, the natural world providing a backdrop against which we could all let down our guards. On one particular hike, Rose slipped and scraped her knee. It was instinctual the way I reached out to comfort her, and to my surprise, she leaned into my embrace. It was a moment of unspoken acceptance, a softening between us that felt like a gentle tide pulling us closer together. Despite these moments of connection, challenges remained. Rose's oscillation between warmth and coldness could be jarring. We had days filled with laughter and lightheartedness, and others where her withdrawal reminded me of the delicate dance we were still engaged in. Carrie's presence in the background often felt like a shadow that cooled the warmth we tried to foster. Her subtle undermining of my relationship with Rose and Alan was a constant undercurrent, adding tension to an already complex dynamic. As our wedding approached, I sensed a shift in Rose. Perhaps it was the permanence the marriage implied, or maybe the whispers of her mother's discontent that found their way to her ears. The incidents of defiance grew, culminating in cutting remarks and resistance to the family structure we tried to build. Alan stood by me through every painful moment, his resolve to make this work as strong as mine. Yet each conflict with Rose made me question if I was truly prepared for the road ahead. The blend of therapy sessions, shared interests, and continuous open dialogue created a tapestry of our relationship that was intricate and fragile. It was a relationship that required patience, understanding, and an abundance of love, qualities that Alan and I committed to provide in abundance, despite the shadows that sometimes fell across our path. As I reflect on the journey we've undertaken together, I'm reminded of the complexity of forming a new family from the fragments of old ones. Each step forward with Rose is a delicate balance of love, patience, and respect for the young girl at the heart of our blended family. Through every challenge, our resolve to create a nurturing environment for her has remained steadfast, a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. Our engagement story began on an unexpectedly warm evening in late September, marking an anniversary of sorts. It was on this date, 3 years prior, that Alan and I had shared our first date, a simple but charming evening that had started with coffee and ended with a sunset walk along the river. That night, he had seemed unusually quiet during dinner, a thoughtful, distant look occasionally crossing his face. I wondered if something was troubling him but decided to wait until he was ready to share. After dinner, as if retracing the steps of our initial meeting, Alan suggested a walk in the park where we'd first realized there might be something special between us. The park was beautifully quiet, with just the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant sound of the city as our backdrop. We found ourselves at a familiar bench, the one where we'd sat years ago, talking until the stars came out. He took my hand, his grip both nervous and firm, and there was a moment of deep, almost palpable silence between us. "Emma," he began, his voice soft but clear in the quiet of the evening. "These past 3 years have been the happiest of my life. I know I've said it before, but I truly believe it was fate that brought us together that night. You've brought so much light into my life, and not just mine but Rose's too, even if it's hard for her to show it sometimes." I listened, my heart beginning to race with the weight of the moment I sensed was coming. "I love you, Emma. I love the life we're building, and I want to make it official, if you'll have me." From his pocket, he produced a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a ring that glinted under the street lamp's glow. It was beautiful, understated, and elegant, just like the life we had begun to carve out together. The proposal wasn't a grand gesture. There were no hidden photographers or a flash mob of dancers. It was profoundly personal, a quiet commitment made under the stars in the same spot where we'd first realized we wanted to be together. My answer was a teary, joyful, yes, a word that felt too small for the enormity of my feelings but the only one that made any sense. The decision to get married wasn't just about our love for each other. It was about forming a new family unit with Rose. Alan had been upfront about his role as a father from the very beginning, and I admired him for his dedication. We knew that blending our lives would come with its challenges, particularly with Rose still adjusting to her parents' separation and the reality of her father remarrying. But we believed that with patience, understanding, and plenty of love, we could build something lasting and beautiful. In the months that followed, we started planning our wedding. We wanted a ceremony that was reflective of who we were as a couple. Simple, intimate, and full of personal touches. We chose the vineyard outside the city because it was the site of one of our most memorable dates early in our relationship. We envisioned a small gathering, with close friends and family who had supported us through our respective journeys and were there to celebrate the beginning of our new life together. As the wedding plans took shape, so did our efforts to ensure Rose felt included and important in this significant chain. It was essential to Alan and me that she didn't feel like an outsider but as a key part of this union. We involved her in decisions where appropriate, like choosing elements for the ceremony and even helping to taste test the menu, a task she particularly enjoyed. These moments, though sometimes marked by her hesitance, were stepping stones in blending our lives. The days leading up to a wedding are typically filled with a bubbling mix of nervous excitement and joyful anticipation. For me, the day I went to pick up my wedding dress was supposed to be a highlight, a sacred moment carrying both the weight of tradition and the lightness of new beginnings. My dress, inspired by my late grandmother's wedding gown she had crafted herself after being enchanted by photos of Grace Kelly, was more than just fabric and thread. It was a symbol of heritage, a piece of family history tailored to fit the new contours of my life. I remember the morning sunlight filtering through the boutique's front windows, casting patterns of light over the delicate lace and satin. The dress hung there, a dream spun into reality, altered to fit me as I had grown taller than the women in my lineage who had worn it before. As I slipped into it, feeling the soft fabric caress my skin, I could almost hear the whispers of my grandmother's joy and the rustle of her own gown on her wedding day. It was perfect, and after a few final adjustments, it was carefully zipped into a garment bag to protect it until the wedding. Alan and I had decided not to live together before our wedding, a nod to tradition that he insisted upon out of respect for his more conservative relatives. Therefore, my apartment was my sanctuary, a place where every corner was arranged just so, including the special corner of my closet where my wedding dress now awaited its day. That particular day seemed ordinary enough. Alan had custody of Rose, and after school, she was to hang out at her friend's house nearby before coming over to my place for dinner, as was our usual arrangement. It gave her a sense of routine and me the opportunity to bond with her in what I hoped was a comfortable environment for her. Alan was running late from a meeting that had overrun, and I was in the kitchen, the sounds of a simmering pot and the scent of garlic in the air, when Rose arrived. Her greeting was a casual nod, her mood unreadable as it often was these days. I asked her about her day, received a non-committal shrug in response, and went back to my cooking, leaving her to amuse herself as she usually did. Looking back, I wish I had seen, or understood, the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. When dinner was ready, I called out to Rose, expecting her to come bounding into the kitchen as she usually did when she was hungry. But there was no response. A thread of unease began to weave itself into my heart as I walked towards my bedroom to check on her. That's when I noticed the closet door slightly ajar, a sight so unusual in my meticulously kept apartment that it sent a ripple of alarm through me. Pushing the door open, the first thing I saw was the glitter, a cascade of sparkling specks covering the floor like a galaxy that had fallen out of the night sky. My heart stuttered, my breath caught in my throat. There, amidst the shimmering chaos, lay my wedding dress, slashed to ribbons, its fabric defaced with splashes of glitter paint. My veil was shredded, pieces of it scattered around like the aftermath of some cruel celebration. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I sank to the floor, the garment bag crinkling under my fingers, the sound grotesquely loud in the silent room. Tears blurred my vision as the realization that my grandmother's legacy, reimagined into my own wedding dress, was destroyed, a casualty in a war I didn't even know we were fighting. Alan found me there, my sobs a broken soundtrack to the wreckage. His face, when he saw the ruin, went through a rapid succession of shock, pain, and then, settling into a hard line, fury. He went to find Rose, who had retreated to the living room, her expression one of detached defiance. "What were you thinking, Rose?" Alan's voice was a controlled tremor, the kind that spoke of a storm contained but ready to break. Rose just shrugged, her eyes cold, her voice chillingly nonchalant. "What's the point? She's just a fat old cow anyway." The words were a slap, a verbal manifestation of the violence she had inflicted on my dress. Alan's reaction was swift. He confiscated her phone and called Carrie, his voice tight as he explained what had happened, insisting they needed to come together to decide on a consequence that matched the severity of Rose's actions. Left alone, the gravity of the situation began to settle around me like a heavy cloak. This wasn't just about a dress, it was about what the dress represented, my place in this family, the respect I thought I had been building with Rose, the future I was stepping into with Alan. The betrayal felt as sharp and deep as the cuts in the fabric. That evening, after Rose was taken to Carrie's and Alan returned, we faced each other across the ruins of our planned happiness. The air between us was thick with unsaid words, heavy with the weight of decisions yet to be made. "Emma, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry," Alan began, his voice rough with emotion. But sorrow wasn't enough, and we both knew it. "Alan, I love you, but I can't live like this. I can't marry into this. Today it's a dress, but what about tomorrow? What about every other day after that? How do we build a life on this?" My voice broke, the words tumbling out amidst sobs. I know it's hard. She's my daughter Emma, but you are the woman I want to spend my life with. We can figure this out. More therapy, different approaches. Please don't let this destroy us," he pleaded, his hands reaching out, but I felt too far away to bridge the gap. "Can we, Alan? Can we really figure this out? Because it feels like no matter what we do, it's never enough for Rose. And I can't help but wonder if it will ever be enough for us." The conversation stretched long into the night, a painful dissection of our relationship, our future, and the family dynamics that threatened to tear both apart. Each word was measured, heavy with the gravity of what was at stake. As we talked, the pieces of my dress seemed to echo back to us the fragments of our relationship, beautiful but broken, full of hope but fraying at the edges. In the silence of my bedroom, the remnants of my shredded wedding dress sprawled out like a cruel tableau, I found myself grappling with an emotion far heavier than the fabric, a deep, seething anger. This dress, imbued with generations of love and history, was more than just a garment to me. It was a symbol of my future with Alan, a future that now felt as tattered as the lace lying in ruins at my feet. For years I've strived to build a bridge of understanding and affection with Rose, Alan's daughter. I have navigated through her cold dismissals, her sharp barbs, and the protective wall she has meticulously constructed around her heart. Despite the challenges, I remained patient and compassionate, hoping that with time she would see me as an ally, not an adversary. But today's actions, the calculated destruction of something so precious, this was a deliberate strike, not just at the fabric of my dress but at the very fabric of our emerging family. As I sat amidst the wreckage of my wedding plans, my initial devastation gave way to a bubbling, fierce anger. The pain of betrayal from a child I had tried so hard to love was acute. It stung with the sharpness of broken promises and shattered dreams. In this whirlwind of emotion, a part of me wanted to flee, to call off the wedding and leave this chaos behind. Let Alan deal with the aftermath. Let him untangle the knotted mess of his daughter's hurt and hostility on his own. Yet even in my anger, a softer voice whispered reminders of the love and commitment Alan and I shared. He was not just my fiancé. He was my partner, my confidant, and the man I envisioned growing old with. Could I really walk away from the life we had planned together over this? Could I let Rose's actions dictate our future? Alan's reaction to the incident had been one of unequivocal support. He shared in my horror and my sadness, his own heartbreak palpable as he confronted the reality of his daughter's actions. Yet as we discussed what to do next, his words, though filled with concern and apologies, seemed to echo through a haze of doubt that had settled over me. "We'll fix this," he had said determinedly. "We'll find a way to make things right." But the weight of his promises felt heavy, burdened by the countless conversations and interventions we had already attempted with Rose. Sitting on the edge of our bed, the ruined dress laid out before us, Alan reached for my hand. His touch, normally a comfort, now felt like a plea. "Emma, I love you. We can get through this. She's struggling, but we are a family. We can work this out. Please, don't let this end us." His words, sincere and fraught with fear of losing what we had built, tore at me. I loved him deeply, irrevocably. But love, I realized, was not just about embracing someone during the sunlit days. It was also about weathering storms together, and this storm was unlike any other we had faced. "I love you too, Alan. More than I can say," I responded, my voice trembling with the weight of my decision. "But loving you doesn't mean I have to accept this. It doesn't mean I should stand by as the life we want gets repeatedly torn apart by actions that go unaddressed. We need more than promises now. We need action. Real change." Alan nodded, understanding the crossroads we had come to. "What do you need from me? From us?" he asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that flickered in his eyes. "I need to believe that things will truly change, that whatever steps we take next with Rose are not just temporary fixes but real solutions. And I need time, Alan. Time to heal from this and to see that change happen," I said, the resolve in my voice belying the fear that tangled my thoughts. The conversation that followed was one of the hardest we had ever had. We laid bare our fears, our hopes, and the painful acknowledgement that the path to healing our family would be long and fraught with challenges. We talked late into the night, not just about the wedding but about what our future as a family looked like. We discussed more intensive therapy for Rose, potentially involving different strategies and specialists who could help us address her actions and our family dynamics more effectively. As dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft light on the remnants of my wedding dress, I felt a fragile peace settle over me. The decision to postpone the wedding was heart-wrenching but necessary. It was a step back to take two forward, a pause to rebuild not just the trust between us but also within myself. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with potential for both healing and heartache, but as I looked at Alan, his face lined with the same resolve and love that had drawn me to him years ago, I knew that this was a journey we were committed to making together, for better or worse, in the truest sense. Update: the painful episode with my future stepdaughter Rose destroying my wedding dress a week before the ceremony brought a stark lesson about the complexities and demands of blending families. This experience underscored the profound challenges that arise when uniting individuals with diverse histories and deep-seated emotions under one roof. The incident was a harsh reminder that familial bonds, especially those newly forged, require not just love but an ongoing commitment to understanding and patience. The necessity of robust communication and the implementation of effective conflict resolution strategies became evident as we navigated through this crisis. The emotional turmoil caused by Rose's actions highlighted the importance of addressing underlying issues head-on, rather than letting them fester unspoken. It reinforced the need for setting clear boundaries and expectations for all family members, while also maintaining a compassionate and supportive environment. Moreover, the incident was a profound lesson in resilience and forgiveness within family dynamics. Choosing to postpone the wedding and focus on healing demonstrated the value of prioritizing the long-term health of family relationships over immediate desires or societal expectations. It was a testament to the strength of our commitment to each other and to Rose, showing that the path to a harmonious family life is sometimes paved with trials that test our capacity to forgive and rebuild. In conclusion, blending a family is a delicate dance of balancing individual needs with collective goals. It demands a deep reservoir of empathy, firm boundaries, and an unwavering commitment to navigate through the storms together. The true essence of family lies not in the absence of conflict, but in the ability to come together and grow stronger in the face of adversities.